Well, every Thursday, and what a dramatic relief it's going to be this week, because we had Heinemann Wednesday and Heinemann Friday. Poor man. So today we get to talk to Chris Kopff, University of Colorado, real scholar, a very bright guy, fluent in 5 languages, and smarter than the average dude. Stay tuned, folks.
It's time for the Newsmaker Show on News Talk AM 1480 WLEA. Here's Kevin Torres.
All right. Now, here are a couple topics that Heinemann will not talk about. It just popped in my mind. Chris?
I've become the bologna in the Heinemann sandwich, huh?
Well, yesterday on the award-winning Newsmaker Show, not once but 3, maybe 4 times, he referred to me as simple-minded.
How generous, how open,
Yeah, what a nice guy, huh?
Yeah, no, if you disagree with somebody, it's much easier to say, shut up, you're stupid, than to answer your problem.
Well, here's what it was, by the way. I don't think I'm going to let him get away with it, but here's what it was. I said, wouldn't it be nice, Bob, if the country had followed the advice of George Washington and others and not gotten into a party system? Because now Democrats and Republicans will both support their leaders, even if in their hearts they believe they're wrong. So we got all these guys trotting out defending Obama when way deep down they don't believe that. Same thing happened with Bush. And I said, why don't they simply put the nation first? And he said, well, you're kind of simple-minded, aren't you?
Imagine being a patriot and putting your country first is simple-minded.
Well, I think what it is, he's so, listen, he's a friend of mine, but sure. I think he's so involved in the nitty-gritty of politics that he can't see the big picture. And don't think I'm not going to go after him tomorrow, because I am. But I was shocked. 3 or 4 times he called me simple-minded.
Well, this is relevant to something most Americans don't care about, but the government of France has been changed dramatically over the past 3 days. The president shut down asked the prime minister to form a new government, and the main reason was because his economic guy criticized the government's policies and says these austerity patterns are not working for France, and they don't even seem to be working that well for Germany. And the response to that was to fire him the next day. And the guy they hired is not a normal socialist politician, but a banker who used to work for Rothschild. You're making a very strong statement there. Which comes first, your country or your banks?
Well, I think I know the answer to that. Yeah.
We won't even have to answer. And all this guy did was make this is a current debate all over the world is, should we be cutting or should we be putting money into the system, hoping to, rev up the system? And both sides have their arguments pro, and both sides have their arguments against. But, to fire somebody for making the most reasonable kind of criticism doesn't mean he's right, of course. In fact, I think he isn't right. But the idea is you can't have a discussion.
Yeah.
You can't have it in France, and you can't have it in this country, because if you don't support your side, you're a traitor.
Yeah, we've heard that several times, yeah.
Yes, no.
From both parties. Both parties, yeah.
Our side, and you're not allowed to say, well, the other side has 1 or 2 interesting points, and, I still think that, on the whole, I'm going to go with our guys. And it's especially bizarre with the whole things where the, Obama does things that Bush did, and when Bush did it, it was terrible and almost treasonous. Things like expanding the debt limit. When Bush did it, it was unpatriotic. When Obama does it, it's the height of patriotism, and you're threatening to bring down the international financial system if you don't support it.
Well,
just 4 years ago, you guys argued the other.
Well, that, to me, that's why I've left the Republican Party and joined the Constitution Party. But I can see why more Americans are independent now than belong to either of the parties, because it gets silly after a while. we're going to defend what our leader says, even if the leader's a nitwit. You know, it's just...
Even if he's doing exactly what the previous guy did, for which we attacked the previous guy.
Right. It does.
And with Obama, it's comic relief, where every time he has a major initiative, the stations put him on when he was a senator, saying this is not only mistaken, that's one thing, but it's unpatriotic. It's wrong. It's you shouldn't support this person. And now he's doing the same thing. This is why he's in this comic situation now, where he doesn't know what to do internationally, because he sold himself. Can't we all just get along, guy? And now it turns out that along with reasonable people, there are also unreasonable people. What do you do with them?
Now,
the answer is play golf.
Right. Get away from it all and yuck it up with your buddies. Now, there's a Pew poll out this week saying race relations are worse since Obama took over. At least that's how it's perceived by both blacks and whites. Now, what would cause that, Chris?
Well, unfortunately, what you need to do when you get elected representing a side that's been on the out is show generosity toward the other side and insist that you're, the president of the whole nation and on and on. And Obama, to some extent, and Eric Holder, to a large extent, has been so aggressively pro-black and anti-white and nasty comments about white people and on and on and on, that it has really caused a natural reaction that people are going, well, I don't think we're that bad. And so we have a situation where they could have, made a major contribution to race relations by simply saying, we are the president, and I'm the president, and I'm the secretary of the Department of Justice, and the attorney general of the whole country.
Yeah.
And saying, look, sometimes my side is right, and sometimes they're wrong. And especially Holder, but Obama's occasionally been guilty of it, but Holder terribly. Well, it's always my side. The most important thing about me is I'm a black man, is what Holder keeps saying over and over again. And the most important thing about him should be that he's Attorney General of the whole country.
Exactly. And he really is the Attorney General primarily for blacks. And you can, that you can understand it does not mean it's right. He recently said, I think he said it down in Ferguson, that he used to get stopped by the cops routinely. And I guess that really ticked him off. Well, yeah, okay, I understand. But you don't take that and make that a national policy.
The idea that we don't get pulled over is just silly.
Yeah.
By the way, we get pulled over too, and it's always terribly unjust, and on and on. But we sit there and smile. But the thing is, they don't seem to distinguish between being pulled over to have your license checked and being shot. Yeah. If they want to object to being shot, I think we can all understand that. But to object because they get pulled over when they're speeding.
To take a break, when we get back, we'll see what Chris thinks about the Burger King controversy. And what the solution will be. And we may also get a chance to talk about a university in Florida that has a library with no books. No books. We'll be back in just a moment. Chris Kopff with us today. Dr. Kopff, University of Colorado Boulder. I understand there's a university down in Florida now with a library, expensive library, and it has no books. How can that be? A lot of people are mad at Burger King. Some people say, well, you can't blame them. Who wants to pay 40% tax when you can pay 25% somewhere else? Or nothing somewhere else after that. Can't blame them for that, can you? Or can you?
Well, it's even more. It's a very competitive business in fast food, and it isn't growing. And one thing you can do is you can hope to grow, but the other is you stop spending so much money. Mm-hmm. All of us face that. Ordinary people do, and so do businesses. And the competition is now so strong there that Burger King is facing the fact of either cutting back or of paying less in taxes. I mean, what choice do they have and stay in business?
Well, why doesn't the government see that? You got the guys running around saying, well, no, that's it. That's the last Burger King I'm going to buy if they're moving out. But why don't you just lower the taxes and they won't do that? They'll stay here.
The irony is that Warren Buffett, who was telling us that rich people should pay higher taxes.
Yeah, like
is
him.
now financing Burger King's move to Canada because he doesn't approve of taxes on business, because taxes on business are not productive.
No, they
are to a certain extent, obviously. Yeah. But at a certain level, when you're uncompetitive anymore, and the Buffett rule, Mr. President Obama used to talk about, rich people should pay more, but the other Buffett rule is businesses should pay what they pay in other countries. Otherwise, we become unproductive.
Yeah.
And Obama's back playing golf instead of actually talking to Warren Buffett.
I don't think Warren Buffett plays golf. Maybe that's his problem. He needs to get out there.
He's working all the time.
Yeah.
That's why he's rich and we're not.
Well, listen, Obama's going to be very, very rich. All he's got to do is write a book and
look how rich
bingo.
Clinton's got.
Oh, it's incredible. I don't think most people realize that Clinton Inc. It really is an international business consisting of three people: Hillary, Bill, and Chelsea, and they're making, an incredible amount of money. You think back to the days of Harry Truman, where he had to go out and cut his own grass.
That's right.
Well, listen, time's gone. We'll have you back next week. Dr. E. Christian Kopff, University of Colorado. Always fun talking with you. Maybe next week we'll get back to some of the people who've had an important effect on America and the world, even though 90% of the people have no idea who they were. Their ideas have, in many cases, given us a rotten well. Okay, we'll be back next week with Chris Kopff.